Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cory Weissman, the Director of Athletic Communications at Gettysburg College, and we have another edition of Bullets Athletic Spotlights. And today we're talking about student-athlete health. And I have a great panel today with two of our esteemed athletic trainers, Mike Cantele and Lindsey Manning. I almost said Lindsey Rep. It's been a couple of years now. You think I'd get that right. As well as our team physician, Dr. Mark Lavallee. Now I'm going to swing it to our panel here and allow them to introduce themselves. Mike, let's start with you. We'll go with the resident Gettysburg grad.
Let me do that.
There you go.
Zoom kept me muted for a while, starting to get used to this. Mike Cantele, an 88 grad of Gettysburg College, then went to Old Dominion University for grad school in athletic training. After that, there was a one-year position at Gettysburg, and I did not have any job lined up, so I said, what the heck, let's come back for 1 year and see what's happening. And here I am 30 years later, still doing this wonderful job at this wonderful institution. Got to learn from some great mentors and turned into colleagues with Lefty Beiser and Joe Denali. I was really fortunate to continue not only my education and keep it rolling into a profession.
And of course, one of your coworkers, your longest tenured coworker at athletic training, we were just noting that Lindsey's been here 11 years. Lindsey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, 11 quick, fast, wonderful years. I was fortunate to get the job at Gettysburg after completing my undergraduate at Messiah. I pursued my master's while working. I got my master's in exercise science and health promotion from California University of Pennsylvania. So yeah.
And how long have you been married now?
2 years. It'll be 3 years in, no, 2 years. Sorry, gosh, these years. 2 years in July, it'll be. July 2018.
As you noted, the time just flies by. And of course, the fourth member of our discussion today, Dr. Mark Lavallee. What's up, Doc?
Sorry, I was muted. Thanks, Cory. So I guess my background is a little bit different. I went to this very, very small school. Some of you may have heard it called Penn State. Did my undergrad there, and then I liked it so much I went to their medical school in Hershey, probably more for the chocolate. No, just kidding. And did my training in York for family medicine, and then went to Philly to train in non-operative orthopedics and sports med, and then I was recruited by another small school. I think they were called Notre Dame out in South Bend, Indiana, and worked with the Fighting Irish there for about 15 years, and then was recruited to come back to do some more education here in New York. And I got to meet Sam DeGatta, and Sam DeGatta introduced me to Mike Cantele, and going on 6 years with the Bullets. And I love the orange. I love the colors, the athletes, the medical team, everybody. So I'm just pleased to be here. My also background is in with sports, specifically USA weightlifting.
Thank you, Dr. Lavallee. It's a pleasure to have you on the call today, too. Of course, we can always see you patrolling the sidelines, especially during the playoffs down with the women's lacrosse team in Roanoke a couple of years, too. So
we're just shining up our little national championship. One of my non-COVID masks.
And we are certainly going to get into the coronavirus situation at the end of our talk today, but we felt like we wanted to start with talking about our regular schedule and what everyone does, how everyone works together and collaborates in athletic training at Gettysburg College, and make sure our student athletes are healthy, both on and off the field. And Mike, we're gonna start with you. So athletic training, we were just talking about it, is just shy of a century old at Gettysburg. We're well past 90 years now, working towards 100, starting up with Rome Capozzi in the 1920s, and of course going through your mentors, Lefty Beiser and Joe Denali. You are just the fourth head athletic trainer at Gettysburg College, which is incredible when you think about the scope of time. Now, obviously, athletic training has changed quite a bit from the days of Rome Capozzi helping out on the athletic fields to lay the tinder and dirt at the old football field in the 1920s. So talk about, from your perspective, both as a student and, a man of history, as also as an employee, about the evolution of athletic training at Gettysburg College and just how it's all changed so much over time.
Yeah, great. It is crazy when you put those numbers out there. 95 years or so we've been having athletic trainers at Gettysburg, and that's probably one of the top 4 in the state of Pennsylvania, which, is known for athletic trainers around the state. So being up there with state schools, in Penn State and the Westchesters, we've had a long history of athletic training. And thanks to Rome Capozzi starting it all from, like you said, working on the track, doing the laundry, probably doing everything in the athletic department possible, to Lefty Beiser really starting, the medical background. He was the doc in town. Everybody came to Lefty Beiser for advice on everything wrong with them. And then Joe Denali came in there, and then Lefty and Joe were both my professors and learned from them, and back then we had a lot of student helpers, we probably 25, 30 students. And then without getting into a long history, the way we became certified athletic trainers, that whole process changed nationally. So the number of students at Gettysburg has decreased dramatically. So that's no longer really in the mix. We have a few here and there that go on, but not like the days when I was going there. But as far as the careers, Lefty and Joe, and even when I started, we used to teach. We would teach classes all morning long, and then we'd go in and teach lab in the afternoon, and then the students and myself working with Joe and Lefty, we'd go right into the athletic training room. So it was kind of cool in that way. You had them in class, then you had Lefty in the lab, and then you work side by side with them in, putting everything you just learned right into practice right away. So that was pretty neat. But then through the evolution and the amount of, and Joe fighting hard and recognizing that athletic training, is the profession in itself. We don't need to be teaching and doing all that. And the profession and the growth of year-round athletics, and all school, the demand and non-traditionals and strength and conditioning all day long has really put a demand and importance and value into the athletic training and the medical team. So all this, all the staff that have come through Lindsey and Carrie and all others that are here now and have gone through, sharing ideas and growing our profession to, like Dr. Lavallee said, we are now a teaching institution or teaching spot for sports medicine fellows, which really has increased our our physician presence and fellowship presence, which is great for all our student athletes. To, now Dr. Lavallee teaches us, we have a handheld diagnostic ultrasound machine in our clinic, right? And Dr. Lavallee teaches us as athletic trainers how to use that to increase our diagnostic skills. And then right then after our teaching lessons, we're looking in real time at the function of an student athlete's heart in real time as he's laying on the table right in the athletic trainer room. I mean, you can't get much better healthcare than that. So it's pretty awesome the way it's changed and evolved. And, I think our student athletes are getting quality healthcare.
And of course, with that evolution too has been a physical evolution. We're over a decade now with almost a whole new setup for the athletic training and sports therapy room. So anybody that was in that room in the 1980s and 90s would see something completely different. Talk about some of the elements that you guys use to help student athletes get back on the field that are in the training room.
Sure. That's been a crazy evolution, but it's also been, back even when Lefty and Joe, our room has always been large and very functional. If you go, even today, you go to some other institutions and you're working out of a 200 square foot, 300 square foot room, we're now well over 3,500 square feet, working out of great, have all state of the art, equipment, from I'm sure everybody watching that was in school with me back in the 80s, you know, you can think of the old metal tin whirlpools that you used to sit in, get in and out of, and all that. We now have in-ground HydroWorks therapy pools, underground treadmill with cameras underneath, so we can look at gait and do rehab and see what's happening underneath the water. So those things like that have changed. State-of-the-art modalities, from cold compression units to stim, ultrasound, to much more hands-on therapy that we do now. And then again, back to that diagnostic ultrasound, what a great tool, and having the physicians that are willing to teach us, you know, on spot and using it. And we're using it as staff to help our diagnostic skills. I mean, I think everything is just changed and upgraded, and our student athletes are very fortunate, and we're very fortunate for the support that the athletic directors and the administration has placed on athletics and on athletics healthcare in particular. Without that support from the college, I mean, none of this we'd be able to do. So we're very fortunate and thankful, from Chuck Winters to Dave Wright to Mike Mattia now, and all the presidents along the way.
Yeah, I remember when the underwater treadmill went in, I got to be one of the first people to kind of try that out, because I was coming off a pretty extensive foot surgery at the time too. And what a great piece of equipment that is. Lindsey, turning to you now, obviously Mike talked about the staff makeup and how that's changed over time, going from where it was more class-based and having students, and now with full-time people as well as the fellows and everything. We'll get into the additional medical staff that assists you guys as well. But how are you and your coworkers in the athletic training room, talking about, you know, KDO and Matt Sullivan, Mary Beth Bindo, and of course Mike, how do you guys tackle that daunting task of trying to schedule nearly 600 athletes and trying to prioritize who needs what and when?
Yeah, it does become daunting at times, but I think we do a great job, the 5 of us. We are each assigned a sport, which kind of helps, but we have open hours in our athletic training room where, you know, we hope that the athletes feel that we're easily accessible during those open hours, that those athletes can come to us. We do priority sport coverage by the amount of contact, you know, contact versus non-contact sport. But we just, you know, try to prioritize those athletes that are right in front of us and just walk them through, whether it's an evaluation or we're walking them through their rehab process.
And if they come to you with really any kind of ailment, I mean, you guys have to record that as would any other medical professional, correct?
Yes. Yep. This year was our first year that we transitioned to a EMR, which is an electronic medical record. So that was a little bit of a transition for us, which may have even helped the transition to online Zoom now a little bit, just getting us more familiar with electronics. So yeah, it's different, but good. Developing, you know, just as clinicians.
So you guys didn't have to keep as many of those little note cards and tucked away into the little corners of the office as much as you used to. I have pictures of like you and Carrie Garrett specifically sitting there in your spot in the training room, filling out all those cards and putting them in their little slots.
Yeah, it's still a popular spot for us, and we still do keep a little bit of paper records as far as just rehab flow charts and everything like that. But yep, different with our just our daily evaluations are now all on Medicat, which is our electronic medical record.
And of course, outside of our athletic training staff, you guys work with a great group of medical professionals. We have, of course, Dr. Lavallee here. There's Dr. Ernie, as well as Dr. Gillis, and then we have the fellows that come in on a rotation as well as interns that come from some of the local institutions like Messiah. You yourself was part of that program 12 years ago or so, thereabouts. So describe how our athletic training room works so well with those medical professionals to help our student athletes.
Like Mike said, the relationships that we have with the doctors have just bettered ourselves as clinicians, and education through that, through our use of ultrasound. With our relationship, we'd be able to set up weekly clinic hours with Dr. Gillis coming on Tuesdays and Dr. Lavallee coming on Wednesdays. We've definitely just broadened our access to physicians for our student athletes.
And that's a good transition to our other guest today, Dr. Lavallee, who's been sitting there quietly in his office with his championship trophy in the background. So Dr. Lavallee, bringing you into the equation now, talk about your role with the student athletes at Gettysburg College and your approach in helping them to get back on the field. And as Lindsey mentioned, I know you come every Wednesday to see the student athletes, but then you also come for some games and around playoff time as well.
Thank you, Cory. Well, it's been a great journey. I'm just pleased. I couldn't be more pleased about how open Gettysburg was in late 2013, early 2014, when I first walked on campus and got to meet Mike at the time, and through the relationship with Sam DeGatta, who was the orthopedic surgeon of record prior to Dr. Gillis taking over. And I had taken care of some smaller schools in the Midwest, in addition to Notre Dame. So I had some interesting preconceived notions of what a smaller Division III school may be, because that's what I had. We had Holy Cross College and St. Mary's College in South Bend. Boy, was I blown away with what Gettysburg had done. 600 athletes, more athletes than we had at Notre Dame. We had 540 athletes at Notre Dame. So more collegiate athletes, 19 sports. We did not have wrestling. Obviously, it's Pennsylvania, so it seems like everybody has wrestling here. So I was just amazed. Then I walk into, first walk onto campus. It's gorgeous. I'm a history buff, so a military history buff. So I'm like a pig in heaven. And this facility, I'm like, what's up with this building? It's got this upside down icicle and a climbing wall. Okay, that was like the Jaeger Center was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then, okay, I'm expecting like not one but 2 turf fields. Like, wow, what's up? And then you walk in and like you've got a natatorium that's world class. You've got workout facilities for the student body that is world class. You've got faculty and athletes and non-athletes all working out together. Okay, so when we weave our way back to the training room, I'm like, what? I mean, it's beautiful. I'm like, better than Notre Dame. They had like 3 or 4 different training rooms. And I'm like, it's huge. You've got this area for treatment. You've got this aquatic area with underwater flume, which I remember pricing those like 20 years ago. They're like $1 million. And then you're looking at not one exhausted trainer that doesn't care. You've got like 5 engaged, young, vibrant trainers. And I was just really blown away. Best experience I had. And it's only grown, as I think it's all about relationships, not just, it's an environment. I mean, some of the institutions, coaches change over every couple seasons, and it's like Hotel California. They check in, but they never leave, whether you're an athletic trainer or a coach. Oh, yeah, I've been here 30 years, 40 years. What? What's up with that? They don't kick you out there. No, it's great. So you start from within, the foundation of those relationships within an organization such as Gettysburg College. And then, then you start to meet the students and the student athletes. And they're like amazing. They're like smart. They know their healthcare. They know about their own healthcare. You can have very, very intelligent conversations with them. And some people may think, oh, you're not going to see the depth or the severity, clinical challenges in a smaller, quote, D1, D3 school. That's absolutely not the case. Probably every year our fellows are presenting some, interesting case that has wowed us, we've learned from. Every year, since I've been involved since 2014. The athletes are amazing. They're world class. I think because because it is D3, they may have different aspirations going into their athletic career than maybe other bigger programs, D1 programs. I actually like it because I think the word student athlete is appropriate. Your students first, athlete second. Throughout all of the cases that we've had, the simple cases to the most complex, I really feel that this organization, Gettysburg College, is out for the health, wellness, and safety of those athletes. It always does the right thing. I can say that I haven't seen that with other organizations I've had the chance to work with, or things are just treated differently. Fun fact, I think Mike may have told me this, is that the training room at Gettysburg is 1 square foot smaller than the main training room at Penn State main campus. I don't know if I can prove that, but would they use every square foot at Gettysburg for the health and safety of the athlete?
It's great. It was fun to watch Mike's reaction when you said that the athletic training staff was young and excited. I don't know.
Yeah, can we rewind that a little bit and play that part again?
We can cut that for the highlights for you, Mike, for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dr. Lavallee, thank you for those kind words. We'll swing back to you here in a few minutes. Mike, we want to touch base a little bit on mental health, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We see the NCAA and the Student Athlete Advisory Council doing a initiative out there right now on mental health. We kind of covered it as part of D3 week, and we had a full day on focus on well-being and talked about mental health as well. So how does the athletic training room, of course you guys handled the physical aspects of everything. If someone sprains their ankle, stubs a toe, breaks a finger, you guys handle all of that. But how do you guys approach the mental health part of it? And how important has that become in today's climate with today's student athletes?
Yeah, thanks. Great question, Cory. In my time at Gettysburg, this has probably been the biggest change, adjustment, improvement, however you want to word it, in the healthcare that we provide. The behavioral health aspect is huge, and I think it's not that it's more occurring today. It's just that today's student athlete, today's youth are okay talking. The stigma is being removed about talking about behavioral health issues. And as clinicians, we're learning every day. We're learning that, hey, it's not just a sprained ankle, right? Because a sprained ankle we have that physical injury to that sprained ankle, but that also affects the psyche of the student athlete, right? Because they're doing something every day that they enjoy, and then all of a sudden something is taken away, right? Whether it's, going out on a field, a court, swimming, whatever. So now we are really focusing on that behavioral health aspect of every injury. So we're delivering such better healthcare, total healthcare to these student athletes. We're just a resource, for communication. We develop these relationships, like Dr. Lavallee said, the relationships between the athletic trainer, the student athlete, the physicians, the fellows is so tight. We're the athletic training room is a safe zone. We can go in, talk about anything. People can come into your office, talk about anything. They can talk about coaches, talk about other athletic trainers, talk about whatever, right? And they're talking about boyfriends, girlfriends, family problems, everything comes through, and we're just a safe zone. They get it. They see us every day. They're in relationships with us all the time. So that's what we're there for. The relationships are awesome. We're there all the time about education. From the day they step foot on this campus, we're educating them about where we are, how available, other resources on campus, from the health center to the counseling center, explaining about physicians. We're preaching about, anybody that's out there watching knows we're preaching about sleep. How important sleep is, how important hygiene is, which we're learning more and more and more every minute of the day these days, how important hygiene is. Social media we're putting out there. The younger staff now is all on the social media putting out information and resources out there for everyone to use. We encourage yoga, breathing techniques, relaxation, journaling, knitting, you name it, whatever we can find to help people deal with an issue, we're out there trying to do it. We used to just focus. When I just started, a sprained ankle was a sprained ankle. We dealt with that sprained ankle. Now we're dealing with a holistic approach, dealing with the entire student athlete, and our results are so much better, so much better.
Yeah, I know it was really interesting when we worked on that story on the Whoop bands to hear comments from student athletes just about the simple changes in patterns, sleep patterns that affected their heart rate and then their performance the next day. And then with that cycle, that circle of life, like they were just happier, more enthusiastic about going to practice and performing out there too. It was really interesting to hear them and their comments on that situation too. Just something so simple as getting an extra 30, 45 minutes of sleep every night.
For sure. Everybody that's been around me for the last 3 years knows sleep is my thing. I mean, I think it can solve so many problems on a college campus that we just got to get that across.
That's great. And of course, all the resources are available through our athletic training room. You can find some of that information as well as contact information on gettysburgsports.com. So I encourage anyone listening to go check that out. Now, Lindsey and Mike, I do want to stay with you and talk a little bit about the coronavirus before swinging to Dr. Lavallee and hearing his experiences with this too. Obviously, it's impacted how we operate day to day. Your office, my office, Kelly Jones, the equipment room, the coaches, we're all about engaging student athletes. It's a little hard to do that when you're through a computer screen, particularly for you all in trying to diagnose issues, physical, mental, and help people with rehab from ACLs, ankle injuries, and what have you. So talk about your strategy in coping with the current situation and engaging the athletes that need help right now.
For sure. It definitely has created a little bit of a challenge, but like Lindsey said, through our electronic medical records, we're used to that technology. But Zoom, we're all becoming experts on Zoom. As long as we unmute ourselves, we're probably pretty good. So, we're holding staff meetings, we're working as usual, and then that interaction, we are our profession, physicians, athletic trainers, healthcare professionals, we are an interactive group of people. We have to touch and feel and, get to know people and how to evaluate injuries. And that face-to-face dealing with behavioral health is so important. But hey, we're all in this together, right? So we're looking, we're finding new ways to accomplish our goals. So through this method and this communication, we have open office hours. Every student athlete was sent an email just last week. All 5 of our staff have open office hours, 2 hours a week. We have linked in with our strength and conditioning coach. He also has office hours, and we've also linked in also with Cindy Wright to help with some of the behavioral health aspects of that. So our resources are out there. People can log in just to say hi, or we've been doing evaluations, we've been doing rehabilitation online. So it can be done, not the way we prefer it. We're trying to do everything we can to get back to that face-to-face, but this is what we're dealt right now, so we're making the best of it and still happening. Linz, anything else?
Lindsey, what's it like not seeing Mike every day, and be honest?
Oh, it's disappointing. But do definitely look forward to those Zoom meetings. We definitely have been connecting once or if not twice a week. I did have the opportunity to see Mike from a distance on Monday, and that was refreshing. Definitely enjoyed that. But yeah, healthcare has definitely changed for all of us, and just embracing the change and trying to roll with the punches. It's all we can do, and like Mike said, we're in this together. So
Yeah, and as Mike noted, you guys are available. Contact information is on the website. Student athletes have information when you guys are having office hours. So it's important for student athletes that are having any kind of healthcare issues to get in contact with you all. So conversation, I want to turn to Dr. Lavallee. Obviously, you are at work right now, I believe. This whole situation, I'm sure, has impacted you greatly. Talk about how your role with WellSpan has shifted as a result, and just talk about, how we all, everyone, can try to come out of this on a positive note, in your opinion.
Thank you, Cory. Like I may have mentioned, my background is as a family physician, okay, and did my training here, and then also as a sports medicine doctor. Probably before COVID, I would say 75% of my clinical practice was doing sports med and non-operative orthopedics, and still doing about a quarter of outpatient family medicine. Up until 2013, I did ICU work and inpatient medicine, and up until about 2018, about 2 years ago, I gave up my inpatient work. What's interesting is as COVID sort of evolved, they started asking physicians, hey, who feels comfortable in the hospital? Because less and less doctors actually go into the hospital anymore. And who feels comfortable running a ventilator? So I think those of us that felt like, hey, it's not been that long, maybe we can step up, started getting educated, actually re-educated with ventilator management and getting ready to, sorry about that, guys, getting ready to be called forth. I would say I was really impressed with how WellSpan handled it. They took those who were willing, that have been actually practicing in the hospital and in the units as sort of first line. Those of us that are willing and have education experience, but maybe not, up to date, as sort of a second line. And then we had a third line, those that haven't done this since medical school, 10, 20 years, and sort of triaged us. I have not. I've been pulled back. My clinic time has been now more 75% primary care, and about 25% sports medicine. So my sports medicine has been drawn back. Obviously, there's no sports. So, I mean, a lot of people are getting thumb injuries from, gaming and maybe doing puzzles, pushing those pieces down. So we do see some of those. We do see our urgent orthopedic site is still open. It's not as busy as it usually is when people are out and about doing stuff. A lot more like yard accidents. Where I'm serving currently is in a role to support my colleagues and partners in family medicine who are on the floors, who are taking care of those who have COVID and those who have heart attacks and strokes. So just happy to be helping in whatever supportive role that the community needs at this time. The good news is I feel our organization, WellSpan here in Gettysburg, in York, Hanover, Chambersburg, Lebanon, Lancaster and beyond, Ephrata. I think we have enough resources that when we had an outbreak in Lebanon 3 weeks ago, we were able to pull resources from York to help there. So that's been sort of interesting behind the scenes of what we've been doing. There has been a lot more downtime, whereas we've really encouraged patients, if you don't need to come in, don't come in, which I think the public has embraced, not just here locally, but probably nationally. The other thing that's really interesting is I've done more house calls and more video visits in the last 2 months than I ever did. I remember when we rolled out the video, or what we call telemedicine, probably 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and everyone was like, yeah, that sounds great, but I'd rather see my patient in person. And I think that's important. We're all learning how video visits can be very helpful, Zooming can be very helpful, but it's different than the person in front of you. This has really accelerated medicine. I think one of the positives that will come out of this is, I think video visits, telemedicine is here to stay. I think there will be certain patients that will work perfectly for. So telemedicine or just phone call medicine will also stay. Do I think that'll be the majority of things? No, I think people still want to go to the doctor, especially in orthopedics and sports med. We sort of have to actually lay hands on you and play with your joints a little bit. So I think that's one of the positives. I think going forward, I mean, I don't know if anybody saw the front page of the Wall Street Journal today, but today is opening day in baseball, professional baseball in South Korea. Okay, so what did they do? They took season ticket holders and had them take a selfie with their little mask on. And then they took all those season ticket holders and made banners and put those banners in the seats. Because one of the things was, who wants to play to an empty stadium? Well, the South Koreans said, well, you know what? The ticket holders can watch from home. But what about the players? How are they going to feel playing? How motivated are they going to be in an empty stadium? So they brought the images of the season ticket holders to the stadium. I thought that was very unique. I'm not saying that that's going to happen in America or even in Gettysburg, but we need to be creative. We are Americans, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about America is that we are creative. We have some creative ideas, and we're not just in this as a state or a community, but a nation, but also the world. We can learn from our friends in South Korea just like they can learn from us. So I would say there's a lot going on behind the scenes at Gettysburg to try to see how we can safely do things moving forward, not just in athletics, but other aspects. I'm happy to be part of that. I know that Mike Cantele is leading the charge in athletics. So just willing to play whatever part that's necessary.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lavallee. And of course, we want to commend all the work you're doing and all your colleagues are doing as well in helping to fight against COVID-19. But I'm going to stick with you because we're going to have a little fun now. I got to ask everybody what their favorite moment in Bullets athletics was. So, Dr. Lavallee, you're kind of the younger one here. You've only been around for 6 years, so you've got a little less to work with than, say, Mike. And Mike's memory is speculative at best.
Okay, so there's famous and infamous moments. One of the, obviously, how can you not put women's lacrosse national championship back-to-back 17 and 18 together? Amazing to be allowed to be part of both of those celebrations, to see those young ladies. I think one of the beautiful things of being in sports medicine is watching them come in as freshmen and watching them mature, not just as an athlete, but as a person, as an adult. And then to be able to watch them the jubilation, those were probably my most memorable moments. There were moments, infamous sports moments when I watched the men's lacrosse team up in the semifinal, up by 11 points, and then within minutes, within a season, we went down to losing it by 2 points. But those are still very, you learn a lot of sport, not just by winning, but by losing. I think some of the most other memorable moments, I have just a few, were when I had a great team effort. I remember standing on the sidelines with Mike Cantele on a men's soccer, covering men's soccer. He was covering for one of his colleagues, and I was there because I love men's soccer. And boy, someone got one of those little rubber boogers in his eyes from the turf, had a corneal abrasion. We're like, oh, okay. So Mike runs out and helps him out. Then we had a young man booger up his knee. Mike runs out. He's getting more steps in on his Fitbit than he usually does. And then, lo and behold, I'll never forget the goalie goes up to block a shot and goes down like a ton of bricks. And Mike runs out again. And, he's very young and he's a runner, so he's much faster than I am. I'm just a weightlifter. And he's out there. I'm like, what the heck? Mike's not moving. The athlete's not moving. And lo and behold, that young man needed some extensive medical care that was got him all the way to Hopkins. And he came back through the help of some great medical that we had on site and even better medical down at Hopkins. And came back to play again. I think it's not just, it's the journey. And we've had repeat that thing in men's lacrosse, some interesting cases. So it's just the team. If I had to pick one thing other than the championships, it would be working with the team, and the team being athletic trainers, coaches, and administrators.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Lavallee. Lindsey, we'll turn to you. We'll give Mike a little bit more time to think. So, Lindsey, do you have something teed up for us as your favorite moment? I mean, you said one before we went live, but you don't have to talk about my crooked metatarsals if you don't want.
Yeah, that was memorable. As athletic trainers, I think Dr. Lavallee kind of said, the journey, and a lot of times it is just celebrating those little moments. Whether it's a athlete that's walking for the first time after an ACL surgery. I know Cory Weissman is always a big one, and I was there for that game where he got his one and only collegiate point, and that was a big moment. I remember that very well. Just the atmosphere of the gym, just everyone kind of rooting for one particular cause. I think just the sportsmanship of Washington College, and yeah, I don't think anything, that atmosphere was pretty cool. And just knowing Cory and the steps that he took in the athletic training room to get to that point, just kind of encompasses that journey. Another one is baseball, winning, I think, 22 consecutive games. That was a pretty exciting year. That was good. I'll never take for granted those double headers again after this time in quarantine.
Yeah, you and I are both missing 8 to 9 hours on Saturdays hanging out with the baseball team, unfortunately. And of course, Cory Weissman, we dropped his name. We've dropped his name quite a few times in a lot of these chats. He's, he, through all his experiences working with you guys, he's now part of the medical profession. He's now a physical therapist in New Jersey. So
Athletic trainer.
Athletic trainer?
Yes. Yep.
There we go. See, that's why you're on to correct things like this. So, Mike, now that you've had some time to think about it, in your 3 decades with Gettysburg College, do you have any memories? And you probably should be careful since your wife is the head women's lacrosse coach.
Yeah, it's tough. Dr. Lavallee and Lindsey kind of stole some of my thunder about, sure, there's lots of games, there's lots of wins, lots of losses, from back when I was just working there, going with men's lacrosse to the national championship game a couple times. That was awesome. There's some losses in there. I won't throw those in like Dr. Lavallee. I try to shut those out. But those, like I said, we learn a lot from those. Of course, going through some national championships are all fun, the journey and the relationships that you build. But, as healthcare professionals, I think some of my best have just happened memories have been, especially in the last few years, happens to tie in with some of the wins and things, and watching people be successful after some pretty serious injuries, where some people have hurt their knee, blown out their knee pretty good, and not played, and like we talked about mental health, how that affects that. And especially when you're a senior, right? We've all seen how seniors this year had some things taken away from them beyond their control, and injuries also are beyond most people's control. So, we've had people, one in particular, senior year, really hurt their knee pretty bad. And, they knew if they had surgery, they weren't going to be able to participate in the long run. So, hey, working with that person, hey, what are your goals? Hey, I want to keep playing. I want to do this. And trying to weigh the pros, the cons, making sure they're educated at what can happen, what might happen, how can we do this together as a team, everybody you see on the screen and beyond, parents, coaches, players, teammates, how can we make this happen for them? So this individual, worked hard every day in the athletic training room 2-3 times, seeing physicians, seeing orthopedics. A few instances where we tried to go back into play, lasted about 30 seconds, and the knee didn't go as well as we thought, and then more rehab, and then being a pretty successful person in the Centennial Conference Championship, winning that, and then, hey, that worked great, let's go into the NCAA tournament, be a successful partner in that, and teammate, and going through that, and just watching them meet their goals. Those are probably the best memories, and some even going beyond, not playing a lot of season because of injury, going on and being MVP of, the country and players of the years. And, that as a team, those are the best memories and most rewarding to see those student athletes just accomplish their goals. And we had a little part in helping them do that.
Yeah, that's great, Mike. It's such a collaborative effort between the student athletes, the athletic trainers, the coaches, the physicians, parents. There's so many people involved, and you guys all do such a wonderful job with our student athlete healthcare. So I'm so thankful that you guys were able to join me today for today's discussion. I hope our viewers at home, I think we got up into the high 20s as far as live viewers went, some familiar faces out there. So I think they learned a lot from what you guys had to say. And of course, people will be able to watch this on Facebook later today, as well as on our YouTube channel. So for Mike Cantele, Lindsey Manning, formerly Lindsey Rep, and Dr. Mark Lavallee, I am Cory Weissman, signing off for this week's edition of Bullets Athletics Spotlights. Go Bullets.
Thanks, Cory.